Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today with a rainbow unicorn die cut card. We're going to be mixing and matching some dies from Waffle Flower and Mama Elephant to create this really sweet scene. I love the large kind of paper piecing type dies from Waffle Flower. This is the Darling Unicorn, and I thought we would set it against a rainbow cloudy background. I'm going to be using the new mini media mat here, which is perfect for all kinds of inking, watercoloring, all kinds of great designs. And what's fantastic is it really kind of sticks to your surface. So it is going to protect whatever work surface you're working on. It's super easy to clean, just really amazing. This is the small or mini version of the larger media mat that Waffle Flower came out with several months ago. Fantastic for on-the-go type of projects as well. I have die cut the Mama Elephant Cloudy Day cover from some smooth white cardstock, and I am just simply masking off the edges from the stitching line to the outer edge with some very low tack purple tape. I'm going to take some additional purple tape then and mask off areas so that I can ink each edge of the Cloudy Day border with a different color of dye ink. For today, I'm using some pastel shades of Lawn Fawn Inks, starting with Lawn Fawn Minty Fresh ink, applied with an ink blending brush. I decided to go really pastel instead of the traditional, more primary kind of rainbow for my card. Once I have inked up this first border, I can remove the tape and move it up to the next section to add my next color. Something to keep in mind is if you are using the same piece of tape like I'm doing here, you may want to buff off some of that excess ink that is on the purple tape with a dry rag or a paper towel or something like that, because you can pick up some of the ink that's sitting on top of that tape. My next color is Lawn Fawn Butter Ink. We're going to move the tape up to the next section, and it's going to be a little Lawn Fawn Peach Fuzz ink. These colors are so beautiful. I absolutely love the look of this pastel. And once we ink up a few more pieces for that Be a Unicorn, it's all going to tie together perfectly. Ballet Slippers is next, which is my very favorite soft pink ink. And then we want to finish the top section of our card because otherwise it's going to be really stark white. You'll see when I remove the mask. And I am going to use fresh lavender here. So just kind of around that upper edge. Once I have my inking done, I can remove that tape and I'm going to be left with this really nice crisp white border, which is what I wanted. Next, we are going to work on some of the rest of the inking for this card design, starting with this little teeny tiny mini rainbow from Waffle Flower from the Rainbow Word dies. Now, I decided to do a tiny rainbow that the unicorn can hold in its arms. It's going to be so teeny tiny cute. I absolutely love this. We're going to ink it up with all of the same colors of ink that we used for our Cloudy Day cover. And as I'm inking each section, you can see how it's going to go together and be held in those unicorn arms perfectly. I'm still using my mini media mat here to do all of my inking. And once I am done, I'm going to clean this up with a little water. You can use some stamp cleaner, but I'm just going to use a little water here and then just wipe that away. I had a couple little stains. I just took a little bit stronger cleaner and I'm going to immediately wipe that all up with a microfiber cloth to clean up my work surface. Now I played around with some different kind of sentiments and all of the things, trying to decide exactly what I wanted to do, and I ultimately decided I was just going to kind of let that sit for a minute and ink up my unicorn before I decide completely where I want to go. So I have used, again, some low tack purple tape here to mask off different areas, and that's how I'm going to ink up the cheeks of the unicorn with Ballet Slippers ink. We're going to remove these masks then and mask off the unicorn wings, and these are going to be inked up with Minty Fresh ink. I inked the wings first, and then I will be covering them with a nice layer of Nuvo crystal drops in White Blizzard, so they have a sparkly iridescent look afterwards. So they kind of are a minty sparkle when finished. And I reused these little masks kind of over and over throughout. When I removed them though, look how cute that unicorn's starting to look. Now, ultimately, one of my favorite things when building a critter is to tip their head. So I actually ended up trimming the head from the body. That way I can tip the head at an angle, which I think it gives it a little bit of attitude and a little bit of fun. I originally planned to tuck the body back behind that cloud border, but the unicorn horn will stick off the top of the card no matter what. That means I'll either have to trim it off or leave it and use kind of a non-traditional envelope. I decided that instead of that, I would line up the unicorn body with the bottom of my card, or at least along that stitching line, because I really want to include the whole unicorn horn. I think if I trim it off, it's going to kind of mess up the look of this design. I also felt like my unicorn needed some shading instead of just stark white. To do this, I am going to use Lawn Fawn Manatee ink, which is a beautiful kind of lightish gray, almost with some brown undertones in it though, which I really, really like. And we're going to go around the edges, ink up all of the things for both the head and the body to add that fantastic shading. It's still going to give the unicorn the look of being white, but it has shading that matches the rest of the design. Since we're going to be adding, the cheeks are shaded in, we're going to be adding the mane up at the top that's going to be shaded, the unicorn horn, and then of course it's holding the rainbow, and the wings have some shading too. Really makes the image more complete. Another tip to help the unicorn stand out from the cloudy day background, we're going to be adhering it with foam adhesive, which makes a world of difference. The unicorn horn then was inked with butter ink, and we'll be adding some detail to that with the Nuvo crystal drops in White Blizzard as well, so it has a tiny touch of sparkle in that area. We will also use the Manatee ink for the body of our unicorn, adding some simple shading here. We want to keep the gray ink off of the wings, but otherwise we're just going to ink this up so that it matches the head of our unicorn. Once we have this, I decided to add a little, it's very muted sparkle to the background with the Hero Arts white iridescent shimmer. So we're just going to spritz this all over the background. Now we are not using an ink that a reactive ink or a distress ink, so it's not going to react with it. It's more just going to add some very subtle shimmery look to the background when it's dry. So I spritz that all over the background, and then I'm going to set that aside to completely dry while I work on assembling the rest of the card design, and then we can put it in place once our background is all the way dry. I am going to adhere the rainbow to the unicorn body first. I'm using a pair of craft tweezers and a thin little line of glue. I have a tiny fine tip applicator on the tip of my Ranger Multi-Matte Medium, which really helps with something so delicate like this. And then of course the tweezers help place it right where I want it to go. I gently lifted up the arms so I could tuck it underneath. And then I'm simply going to build the rainbow from the outer ring to the center ring. And once we adhere the body of the unicorn to the card background with foam adhesive, those arms will lay nice and flat. This little rainbow adds just a great little embellishing touch to the whole card design. I've used this mini rainbow in lots of different projects. It's just so teeny tiny and cute. I absolutely love it. So there is our darling little pastel rainbow. We're going to put some foam adhesive on the back of the body and then pop that body in place. At this point, I did go ahead and add some Nuvo crystal drops in White Blizzard. I would suggest holding off on that step and doing any stamping on the background that you need to do first. That way you don't, if you're doing like I did and I used a MISTY to stamp my sentiment, you can't use that really until the Nuvo crystal drops has dried. Otherwise it's going to get all over the cover of your MISTY. I did this because I was going to have to step away for a couple hours before I came back to my card, and it worked to go ahead and just apply this now and it's dry when I come back. So that was kind of my thought process, and I'm just showing going ahead and how that head's going to look tipped to an angle, and I'm going to add my foam adhesive to the back of the unicorn and being sure to cover up the areas where the eyes and the nostrils go, because this is going to serve not only as a dimensional adhesive for the head, but a way to inlay the eyes as we get to the end of the card. One thing to keep in mind, I had to move one of those foam adhesive squares up just a tiny bit because when I tip the head at an angle, it slightly overlaps the body more in one spot and it wasn't hitting quite where I needed it to. So I moved that foam adhesive square up just a tiny bit. You can see as I'm kind of playing with it here how it didn't work exactly. I wanted to make mention of that because it's super important if you want to give your unicorn or critter a little attitude there, just to be sure that you're not overlapping the foam adhesive with something that's already been adhered with foam adhesive. So it's been about an hour or so and I came back to my card and I am adding the sentiment from the Waffle Flower Rainbows stamp set. You can mix and match to create many different sentiments. Mine is going to read, "You are my rainbow." I'm going to stamp this with Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink and heat emboss with Simon Says Stamp gold embossing powder. The gold really looks nice with these pastel colors of ink. I am going to heat set that. I did stamp it up in the upper left corner of my card. I purposely really needed to figure out where the head was going to go so I knew what space I had to work with as far as sentiment. It also explains a lot of why I chose certain sentiments over others, because I really needed something that was going to fit in the allotted space. I made sure that the sentiments fit in each section and didn't overlap where the cloud has that slight gap, as I didn't want to lose any of my sentiment in that area. I'm going to peel off the backing paper from all of the foam adhesive, tip the head at an angle so that it avoids the sentiment, and it's slightly tucked underneath one of the wings there as well. I didn't put foam adhesive on the back of the wings to start with, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now so they're nice and secure. And you can see that they're so pretty with that minty fresh glitter. We only have a few things left to do here. One is to adhere the cover then to a white card base. I want to make sure that I am avoiding any of those sections where the cloud has that slight gap. And then there is a layering piece for the Be a Unicorn. I have die cut it from smooth white cardstock and I'm going to adhere the outline right to my unicorn. And then I'm going to ink up each of the sections, just like I did for the rainbow, just like I did for the background, and we're going to inlay those into this layering piece. This little piece here, to me, really brings it all together. We have the great little, the wings are embellished. She's holding this beautiful little pastel rainbow. the unicorn horn, but it really needed this rainbow here, I think, to balance it out, or at least a mane in some color to balance it out. There's a solid piece you could layer behind this if you don't want to do an inlay. I wanted to do the rainbow to complement the rainbow she's holding, so I opted to do an inlay here. But you keep in mind, you could always die cut that solid piece, ink it up in one color, pop it there in place, and then put the layering piece over it for detail. I'm going to add those last couple of little sections with Minty Fresh. Again, I'm using craft tweezers to easily pick up these little pieces and put them in place. A little Nuvo crystal drops just along the lines of the unicorn horn for a touch of sparkle, as I mentioned I was going to do earlier. And then it's time to finish up. I die cut the Be a Unicorn again from black cardstock this time, and we're going to inlay the nostrils and eyes. And with this one simple little step, the whole image comes to life. So, so cute. Look how sweet she is. I am going to take glossy accents to the eyes. I always love to finish them with that. It gives them a little bit of dimension and that nice gloss. When they are completely dry, the final thing I do is take a white pen and add a little highlight. You could add eyelashes to the unicorn with a fine tip black pen if you wanted to as well. So many things to do to add those finishing details, which you guys know, if you follow me already, are my favorite things to add to cards. Now we're going to add a little touch of gold sparkle throughout the background. That's going to tie in the gold embossing of the sentiment with the rest of the card design. I'm taking these pretty pink posh gold mini star confetti pieces and just sprinkling them throughout my card. Then I'm going to take a little sweethearts embellishment, a little clay heart embellishment, and glue it to the chest of my unicorn. It's this little soft pink heart, which complements the design since we're going pastel here. Here is that white pin detail where I'm adding in the highlight for the eyes, and my Be a Unicorn rainbow card is all finished. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this rainbow unicorn card featuring Waffle Flower and Mama Elephant dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring die cut cards that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new card making video. Thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.